Can't play this, can't play this, can't play this! Why? Why can't I play any of these games I own? Good thing I have God damn it! Why can't I play any of the games here? The answer is pretty simple. DRM, or Digital Rights Management. Basically, this is to prevent piracy by making checks and protections to see if you own the software or game. For example, is me buying Far Cry 3 on Steam, but needing to install the Ubisoft Connect app to verify my game? So let's get to the bottom of this. But what do we need answered? Well, first, when is DRM? Why is DRM? How is DRM? And why do I need to install Ubisoft Connect for a game I bought on Steam? First is when DRM. The first DRMs were, how do I put it, very primitive. See, for example, The Adventures of Monkey Island used a physical spin of paper. The game asked for a code, which you just have to make with the wheel. Maybe back when this game was made, paper printing was expensive, but it's modern day now. I cracked your DRM, moron. Oh, also you can just crack the game so it skips this check. Other games tried to do less primitive protections, as including a piece of paper does not really stop piracy. So they tried a lot of different things, such as having a fuzzy bit. This is a piece of the floppy that can either be a 1 or a 0, and every time it's read it can be different. Another part of the code checks if that fuzzy bit is still there. And another protection that was used on games like this was to write sectors of the floppy. As floppy disks use sectors, it was going to write them as 247. The computer could read this fine, but this cannot be written to a normal floppy. And if the game detects that one of the protections failed, such as the sectors not being correct or the fuzzy bit not being correct, it will crash the game, making items not work, just making the game impossible to play. But always, pirates figure out how to crack all these things, as these were still kind of primitive. So let's go to a different form of physical media, CD-ROMs. When CD-ROMs first hit the scene, consumer-grade burning tools were way too expensive, so at the start there was little to no DRM on disk-based games. But after a couple of years, CD burners and CDs became way cheaper, and it was reasonable to burn disks. This is where some of the worst and terrible protections were ever used. So let's have a look at them. The most common type of protection on CD-based games is a simple disk check. If you couldn't get it from the name, all it does is check if the disk is inserted. But how does it know it's an official one? Do you know? I'm asking you. There are about 2 popular disk checking softwares, SafeROM and SecureROM. Something like SafeROM had a lot of different security checks, such as faking disk read errors, and there's a lot of these errors, like up to 1,000. Another check is a signature that can be read, but not written. If you don't know what a signature is, basically it's a fingerprint. It can be used to verify code, and for this case, the legitness of this disk. The exe is encrypted. After the signature check is done, it's decrypted and boom, game. Here's the bad thing about this. It needs to install a driver to verify the signature. I've installed drivers for all my devices. This one must be fine. Yeah, it's a pretty bad vulnerability, as it could allow elevation of privilege. The Microsoft patched this driver way back, but in 2015 it dropped support, which means newer versions of Windows just can't play it. Yeah, a game that you bought, you can't play it anymore, because, the only way to play the game now is to crack it yourself. Isn't that cool? Wait, crack protection? What does that mean? Wasn't I talking about copy protection? Well, these things are actually different. Copy protection is normally a commercial product, such as what I've been talking about here. SafeROM, SecureROM, you know the deal. These normally can be bought and be used on any game, but with doing this, it makes a person trying to crack a game a way easier job, because if they crack one game, they kind of crack all of them. So what does copy protection do about this? Well, not really prevent anything, it kind of just stops it temporarily, but crack protection is built into the games, so the devs make this. Not the devs of the copy protection, the devs of the game. Crack protection sees if the copy protection is still there, and if it's not there, it can result in a lot of issues. You may have heard of anti-piracy screens, but these are rarely used, as one of the basic rules of software security is to be as vague as possible, as if a person is trying to make a crack and sees a massive screen saying, "You haven't cracked me," so they think, oh, I need to fix this crack. So instead of doing that, normally try to stop the player from playing, like, 30 minutes in before giving you errors, or in some games, like GTA 4X for example, giving you a drone camera for no reason, making every car have auto acceleration. Just things that make the game harder to play or impossible. So why not we look at the horrors of a copy protection, because I have nothing else to do with my next 5 minutes. Salesforce, it was a DRM. Really? Well, first let's see how it works. It first of all installs a driver. Oh wait, no, it's a kernel level driver. This is terrible, as it's a pretty bad security issue. Also, if you try to delete the game that uses it, it stays on the system. It was a struggle just to uninstall it. Oh, did I say it installed without the user knowing? See? Salesforce, as being a kernel level driver, can do a lot of stuff, and one of the things it did was crash. And if you know about what happens to kernel level drivers when they crashed, it doesn't just crash the driver, it blue screens. And it can just happen randomly. Oh, and you couldn't use your dual CD and DVD drives as, you just can't. Oh, also, it makes your DVD slower because, Oh, also, you can't even use your CD audio anymore. Isn't that cool? Some guy on some blog was threatened to get sued by Star Force. Isn't DRM so cool? Well, at least Star Force isn't used anymore, except the games that are stuck on it like Trackmania Sunrise, Silent Hunter 3, and many more. These games can't be played on Windows 10 as the Star Force driver can be considered spyware. So, Microsoft doesn't let the driver go through anymore. Cool, I can't play the games I bought now. Isn't DRM cool? Now I need to install a cracked version of it. Well, since we look at the terrible sides of DRM, why don't we look at the less terrible side? Well, no, it's not even DRM to be honest. GOG. What is there to say about it? Well, it's basically like Steam, but without any DRM. To be honest, Steam Basic DRM is not really a DRM. All it takes is an open source DLL, and boom, it works on a machine that doesn't even have Steam installed. But can your Steam game do this? Yep, an offline installer. Isn't that neat and cool and epic? Let's say you have an older system like a computer from Windows XP. You could connect it to the internet and make your network unsafe, or you could grab an offline installer of a game on a USB. And all of this is in the name offline. Well, except, you know, downloading the installer. But still, what else is good about GOG? I would say how they try to keep older games, like very retro games, to still work on modern versions of Windows. Like here, Fallout 1, it works out of the box, and it comes with this patch here. And GOG tries to add patches, so older games still work. And that's all of the good DRM. What do you want me to say? Let's get into the worst DRMs. Spore is a great game to talk about here. It used a DRM I've talked about here, Secure ROM. First of all, Secure ROM was not outlined anywhere on the box or EULA. That's a great start. Hopefully that's it. Oh, and Secure ROM could be used as an online DRM, so instead of doing all this disk stuff, it would give you a key to redeem on a website and verify you own the game. Oh wait, this game is single player, so why do I need to connect to the internet? Oh, and you have to verify this game every 10 days. Oh, and you could only have 3 devices connected. Oh wait, that's not at once, that's ever. And if you went past this, you would have to contact support. Oh, and for some reason, like if you upgraded your RAM, CPU, or GPU, this may register as another device, which adds to the device limit. Well, at least 10 days after the Australian release, it was cracked. Oh wait, not after, before. Isn't that cool? Oh yes, and Spore was one of the most pirated games of the year. Not because it was a groundbreaking title. Yes, it was good. The reason why it was the most pirated, because it had the most intrusive DRM protections. What about more online-only DRMs? As someone who has spotty internet, this is one of the worst types of DRM as, I don't know, if my internet goes out or I'm traveling, I just can't play the game, unless I use like a mobile hotspot or something. Oh, and the servers that are verifying the game are down, I just can't play. Because I don't own the game. The companies can do whatever they want. Well, why keep talking about it? Why don't we just show some examples? Like The Crew. This game had an always online DRM, and guess what that means? We can't play it anymore! Isn't that cool? There isn't even a crack for it, so you just can't play it anymore. A game that you bought is just gone. There's nothing you can do about it. You can't even get your money back, or the game back. And some games like Assassin's Creed were just unplayable for a little bit because, I don't know, they just were. The servers were down. Man, this is pretty bad. But what if we could go further? Wouldn't that be cool, and very nice, and great, and awesome, and stupendous? De Novo is one of the most infamous DRMs, as it's being used to this day, and it being a pretty bad DRM for games. Takes a lot of bad things from other DRMs like online activations and adds more stuff to it. First of all, it uses online activations. We already talked about that. Isn't that cool? You can only activate 5 machines every 24 hours. That's kind of better like something like Spore's DRM, but it's not great still. Oh, also it does a lot of background checks in the background, such as checking the integrity of the files, encryption or decryption of code, pinging the server to check if the license is still there. With all this, it introduces a little bit of overhead, which can increase RAM usage, disk usage, and CPU usage. You might be saying, oh, this maybe gives you like a decrease of like 1 to 2%. Well, why don't we compare them? First, the main executable is 300 times bigger just because of DRM. I guess that's obfuscation for you. De Novo does a lot of decrypting in the background, so maybe this increases all the loading screens to maybe like a 5% increase, but some really bad additions of De Novo can add a lot more increase in loading times, like increase of like 40% on a game like Metroid Exodus on startup, and loading into a mission? What? 400% of an increase in loading times. How and what? Well, what about FPS? Okay. About a 1% increase for the non-De Novo game, but still, I'm not paying for the game, and I'm getting more FPS? Wow. Let's look at a game with a terrible implementation of De Novo, Resident Evil Village. So for some reason the bugs here make the game stutter like a lot, 30 FPS dips, and for the cracked one, 120 FPS. Isn't that cool? But why do game devs still use, you know, De Novo? Money. Oh, and because it's very hard to crack. I won't get into why it's difficult to crack, but it's difficult, and right now there's like only like 2 people who can crack it. A person named Empress, she's kind of insane or something, and she like added her own protection and got mad at Repacker for some reason. I don't really know. She was insane and crazy, but she could crack De Novo. And some guy just did, I don't know. Anyways, he got arrested, so yeah. Oh, and there's some scene groups trying to make De Novo cracks, but there's a far and few between. That is DRM, but we haven't used any real-world examples from my physical media collection. So let's look into them. Let's look into the DRMs that I own. Well, first, let's try some indie or games that have lower budgets than AAA games, like the Tiny Bank Story here, or any PopCap game before like 2005-ish. All of these games work without any issues. They may have like a CD check or something close to this, but for the PopCap games at least, or the Tiny Big Story, it has no DRM, like none at all. But these games are like 15 years old. Prince of Persia here, contains no DRM, even though it's a AAA game by Ubisoft. The reason here it doesn't have DRM is probably because every other game they were making used Secure ROM, which I already talked about. It was bad. So they used no DRM. If I had like a different Ubisoft game like Rainbow Six Vegas 2, I would be talking about Secure ROM here. Also, while researching this, I found out that Vegas 2 wasn't working for paying customers, and what Ubisoft told the people who bought the game was to look for a patch, and the patch was a crack from a piracy group. Isn't that just funny? Anyways, looking at Fallout 3 here, and GTA 4, they both use a DRM called Games for Windows Live. Fallout 3 barely uses the DRM here, as it only uses it for online saving and such, but it doesn't need it. But for GTA 4, I don't want to get into it. It would go into installing the game to disk, then it would ask for a key. I give it said key, it needs an offline key because the key checks are down now, because the servers are down. So I now need an offline key, I try to get an offline key, it doesn't work. Then I don't know what happens after this, and With GTA 4, I just could not use it. But for some reason the key just works in the Rockstar launcher for some reason, which is kind of cool. Also, for some reason I used the base key, and it gave me the DLC and the base game. When I used the DLC key, it gave me the base game and the DLC, so that's kind of cool. Oh, and Fallout 3 does work for me without any issues. It does have secure ROM, but this version doesn't use online activation or any disk checks that make the game unplayable on newer versions of Windows. For some reason, the only time it checks with a disk on the Fallout 3 launcher, but if you open the game with the Fallout 3.exe, it doesn't do that, so I guess it barely has DRM. Because some games that use Windows Live use online activations, and if you couldn't guess, the servers are now long dead. So the games are kinda unplayable without using some type of crack. Isn't that cool? What about more games that we can't play anymore because they use some type of online DRM? And more in depth, it's Steam's DRM. You get a key in the case to redeem on Steam. That is it. The disc may have the game on it, but normally it just has an installer for Steam. So the game here is unplayable offline. Oh, and this one here. And this one here too. What can I do with these? They have nothing interesting to them. No manuals, no soundtracks on disc, no posters, no extras, just a key and disc. What about newer games like the ones coming out in 2020 and later? Yeah, there's nothing. This is probably because there's no market for physical games anymore. Also, if you can play Cyberpunk, you can probably download it from the internet. So that's DRM. The okay, the ew, the no DRM. So what's my opinion on DRM? I know it's bad. Sometimes or something. Wait, I can't play Climate Girl because it uses Star Force? Oh no, I hate DRM. Why do we use it? Wait, the French release is DRM free.